Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're doing a deep drill into B2B demand generation. And we're not talking about the basic fluffy marketing stuff. We're looking at the heavy machinery, the kind you need for high-value sales, where that average contract value, or ACV, is reliably north of $20,000. Our mission is pretty critical. We want to extract a blueprint for how modern B2B organizations can move beyond just chasing leads and start engineering truly predictable, high-quality revenue. And look, we're starting this dive because the status quo is just, well, it's clearly unsustainable. We've seen the data. Something like 81% of B2B marketers feel absolutely crushed by the pressure to deliver measurable results. But here's the real disconnect. 69% of them report this massive gap between what leadership expects and the resources they're actually given. The staff, the budget, the time. That gap, it forces bad habits.
It forces short-term thinking, and that's why the entire goal has to shift. The priority has to be pipeline first.
Yeah.
We're really watching the sunset of traditional lead generation, which was just obsessed with volume.
Just getting more and more names in the door.
Exactly. And we're seeing the rise of demand generation, which is about creating genuine, educated interest.
Yeah.
We need this shift because, frankly, the research tells a staggering truth. Up to 95% of your potential B2B buyers are not actively shopping right now.
95%, that's almost everyone.
It is. So if your entire marketing motion, your budget, your metrics, if it all focuses only on that tiny 5% who are searching right now, you are willfully ignoring the other 95%. That's not just inefficient, it's a strategic failure.
Okay, let's unpack this. If that failure is our baseline, then the core problem we have to fix isn't just the budget gap, it's our reliance on these archaic metrics that actually reward that bad behavior.
Absolutely. We have to start with the MQL, the marketing qualified lead. It's evolved from what was, a useful filter into what many experts now call an organizational liability.
That sounds harsh. A liability.
It sounds harsh, but think about the incentive structure it creates. Marketers get rewarded for hitting MQL targets. So they become motivated to push prospects through who, maybe they downloaded an ebook, but they lack the context, the budget, the readiness for a real sales conversation.
And the result is what? An annoyed sales team.
A very dissatisfied sales team, yes. They waste precious time chasing people who aren't ready to buy. And just as important, you annoy potential customers who feel like they're being pestered.
So the MQL metric, it rewards activity, not actual impact.
Precisely.
That makes perfect sense. It's like rewarding a chef for buying ingredients, but not caring if the meal is any good.
So what's the critical distinction we need to make now? How do we segment our activities to fix this?
We need to clearly separate our efforts across what we call the demand spectrum. On one side, you have demand creation. This is the long game. It focuses entirely on building your future market, on building brand trust, and educating that massive 95% who are currently out of market. But if they aren't shopping, aren't we just pouring budget into a black hole with demand creation? How do you justify that spend?
That's where the measurement has to shift. You justify it because you're building the foundation for all future sales. You're building a competitive advantage. Success here isn't measured by immediate pipeline. It's measured by things like brand reach, high-quality engagement, audience growth.
So things like thought leadership, events, content like this.
Exactly. You are serving the buyer, not selling to them. Then, on the opposite side, you have demand capture. This is the short game. It focuses purely on converting the existing intent from the 5% who are actively searching right now.
The people Googling best CRM for my industry.
That's them. And the metrics here are immediate and tactical. Clicks, lead volume, cost per lead. The channels are transactional paid search, review sites, retargeting.
That separation really changes everything about how you'd allocate a budget. And there's a huge proof point for this shift, right? I mean, companies are actively dismantling the whole MQL concept. The Gone case study is legendary here. It really shows the power of shifting that focus.
It really does.
They moved away from just MQL volume to something they called conversation readiness, which was basically just aligning sales follow-up based on very specific context and signals, not just a form fill. And they were patient.
And the results were revolutionary. They intentionally generated fewer overall leads, yes.
Fewer leads.
But because those leads were so highly qualified and ready, they saw 4 times more opportunities created.
4 times.
And critically, a 95% quarter-over-quarter increase in enterprise pipeline, all without increasing their ad spend.
That's just pure efficiency, unlocked by prioritizing quality.
Exactly. Verifiable quality and, just as important, speed. We're replacing MQLs with metrics that actually mean something for revenue health.
So we're talking about sales qualified opportunities, SQOs.
That's the start, yes. Because that's the moment sales officially accepts the opportunity and forecasts it. But the metric that measures the efficiency of the entire system is pipeline velocity. It forces alignment. It moves the conversation from how many leads did you send me to how fast is money moving through our system.
Okay, so if we agree the MQL is flawed because it only tracks what we can see, that forces us to look beyond those traditional tools. And that brings us to, well, the new frontier. The dark funnel. Here's where it gets really interesting. The dark funnel isn't just a buzzword. It's this invisible, high-intent part of the buyer's journey where, up to 70% of the research and evaluation happens completely outside of your tracking?
It's the conversations you aren't privy to. And that invisible activity is absolutely crucial because it's where genuine trust is built. We were talking about true word-of-mouth recommendations, which influence something like 91% of all B2B sales.
91%.
We're talking about detailed discussions happening in professional communities, private Slack channels, LinkedIn DMs, its podcasts, its events, and, critically, its third-party review sites.
So if you're a buyer looking for a $50,000 piece of software,
You're not basing that decision on one white paper. You're asking your peers. We know this matters because 85% of B2B buyers trust online reviews as much as they trust a personal recommendation.
so ignoring these invisible touch points means you're ignoring where your buyer is actually forming their opinion.
In building their shortlist, yes.
That's a staggering thought for any marketer who's been trained to just optimize website conversions. You're saying that 60 to 80% of marketing-sourced revenue actually comes from these high-intent, dark funnel conversions that just appear on your website as a great lead.
They do. It's a huge financial blind spot. If you can't understand where that initial influence or education came from, you can't manage your demand creation investment.
Right. How do you defend the budget for a podcast if your software never registers it as a touch point?
You can't. Not unless you change how you measure.
Okay, so if we can't track this activity directly with cookies or forms, how do businesses strategically engage in these spaces without being, invasive?
The key is buyer enablement and just being helpful. You have to remove friction and provide massive value. This means providing ungated content. Things like benchmark reports, useful guides, interactive ROI calculators.
Stuff that actually helps them do their job.
Exactly. Let them self-educate at their own pace. Don't force them to fill out a form for something that is purely educational. That's a friction point.
It also means offering rep-free paths to explore your product, right?
Yes. Interactive demos, guided trials that require zero sales interaction. Buyers want that flexibility. The data shows that 75% of B2B buyers would prefer a self-service experience until they are genuinely ready to talk to someone.
That shift from gatekeeper to helpful guide seems vital. But let's get into proving the ROI. We run into what you call the attribution mirage.
We do. Software-only attribution models have a frightening 90% measurement gap when they try to account for these dark funnel activities. If you're only measuring the last click on a paid search ad, you are failing to credit the 9 months of relationship building that actually made them search for you in the first place.
So if the software models are fundamentally broken for the modern journey, what's the practical solution?
We have to move to a hybrid attribution framework. This is not optional anymore. This framework blends your standard software-based tracking with something deceptively simple but incredibly powerful. Self-reported attribution data.
You just ask them.
You literally ask the buyer directly at the point of conversion, how did you hear about us? And when you capture that data, you finally capture the untracked touch points. The person who says, I heard about you on a podcast, or my colleague recommended you in a Slack group.
Without that, all that effort you put into building brand trust just goes financially unrecognized.
Completely.
That's a practical step anyone can implement. But you said simple models like first touch or last touch are inadequate. Why is that?
They're inadequate because the B2B sales cycle is long. We're talking 6 to 12 months, sometimes longer. Simple models drastically undervalue all the educational work done in the middle of that process. So multi-touch models are the mandate.
Which ones work best?
The W-shaped attribution model is one of the most effective. It assigns significant credit, usually around 30%, to 3 key milestones. The first touch that started the journey, the lead creation touch when they finally raised their hand, and the opportunity creation touch when sales agreed to work the deal.
So the W shape validates the whole journey, not just the start and end. It specifically recognizes the content that convinced them to engage.
Precisely. It gives power back to that high-impact, mid-funnel content. For really complex enterprise deals, you can also look at chain-based attribution, which uses machine learning.
So if we move to this more sophisticated measurement, what KPIs matter most to the C-suite? We know cost per lead is out, what's on the new dashboard.
The focus shifts entirely from activity to financial impact. So yes, sales qualified opportunities, SQOs, because that is verified quality, and we need specific efficiency metrics like cost per demo or cost per opportunity.
Not just cost per lead.
No, but the single most critical KPI that ties it all together is pipeline velocity.
Before you give us the formula, what does pipeline velocity tell an executive in plain English?
It tells them how fast money is moving through the sales cycle. Simple as that. Are we speeding up the time it takes to turn a prospect into a customer, or are we slowing down?
It's a measure of the financial health of the whole revenue engine.
Exactly. The formula is you take the total deals in your pipeline, multiply that by your average deal size and your win rate, and then divide that total by the average length of your sales cycle. The result is a dollar amount per day, and the goal is always to increase that number.
So what does this all mean? It means the tech and the measurement are only half the battle. If marketing and sales are still fighting over MQLs, they're stalling that velocity. It means silos must go.
That's absolutely right. Alignment, or smarketing, isn't just a buzzword. It's a structural, operational change. And the payoff is massive. Organizations that do this right can boost win rates by 38%
38%.
and increase pipeline revenue from marketing by up to 208%.
Wow. Okay, so what are the core operational shifts to make that happen?
Three things. First, a unified ICP, a single agreed-upon ideal customer profile. And it can't be a guess. It has to be grounded in four data pillars: firmographic, technographic, intent signals, and actual product usage data.
So real, verifiable data.
Second, shared goals. Both teams have to focus on joint targets like COs and pipeline velocity, not their own siloed metrics. And third, RevOps is the glue. Revenue operations has to ensure data is clean and consistent. They integrate the CRM, the marketing automation, everything into a single source of truth.
That focus on the customer is so critical with complex enterprise deals. You might have 10 decision makers, and they all need different information. This is where a multi-layer messaging framework becomes essential.
It does.
It means you start with one core company narrative, and then you systematically cascade that into distinct points of view, or POVs, for every persona.
The CFO needs ROI calculators, the IT admin needs technical details, the VP of Ops needs deployment timelines.
And you map those personalized messages to the funnel stage so everyone on the buying committee gets what they need when they need it.
Which accelerates consensus and therefore accelerates velocity.
And we can't talk about scaling this without touching on generative AI.
Right. AI is definitely a competitive edge. It can help boost content production, enhance buyer insights, scale your outreach. But, and this is a big but, the human element remains vital. We have to talk about the authenticity premium gap.
What's that?
Data shows that 86% of the thought leadership consumed by decision makers is considered mediocre or poor.
86%.
So AI should be an acceleration assistant. But human strategy and expertise have to drive the quality. Otherwise, you're just flooding the dark funnel with more noise. That high-quality, trustworthy content is the authenticity premium that actually builds demand.
This entire deep dive just reveals this massive strategic pivot in B2B. The paradigm shift is so clear. We're moving from the volume of the MQL trap toward verified quality and speed. We're focusing on SQOs and pipeline velocity.
And critically, that shift requires recognizing the dark funnel's influence. You have to measure it accurately, which is why adopting a hybrid attribution framework is mandatory. You blend software data with self-reported customer insights.
So the biggest barrier isn't a lack of tools.
No. The biggest barrier now is organizational inertia. It's the unwillingness to change entrenched metrics and break down those costly internal silos.
But the payoff is there if you have the patience.
It's undeniable. Look at the
Yeah.
Clary example. Their strategic pivot led to a 67% lower customer acquisition cost,
67% lower.
and their pipeline creation cost was 36% cheaper. Focusing on real business impact and operational efficiency just drastically reduces the need for expensive, desperate tactics.
That's a return that every C-suite executive should be chasing. And it proves that alignment directly correlates with savings. So for you, listening to this deep dive, consider this final thought, building on that RevOps theme of internal friction. If revenue growth is fundamentally an organizational challenge, are you focused enough on measuring the friction points inside your own sales process? Things like manual quoting, slow legal reviews, or approval delays that stall deal velocity just as much as a bad marketing campaign. Think internally, not just externally.